Hello and welcome back. My name is Ganesh. I'm from learnenglishlab.com, and in today's lesson we're going to talk about where to use the passive voice. I'll show you 4 common situations where we prefer to use the passive rather than the active voice. Alright, let's start by making sure we understand the difference between the active and the passive voice. Take a look at these sentences I have over here. Eddie kicked the ball. That's in the active voice. In the passive, the ball was kicked by Eddie. Now, notice that both of these sentences are saying the same thing. That is, the meaning is the same. It's just the expression that's different. We're going to split these sentences into 3 parts called the agent, the action, and the receiver. I'll explain to you what these mean. Let's start with the action. In both of these sentences, the action is kick. So the basic verb is kick. The agent is the person or thing that does the action, and that is Eddie in both sentences. The receiver is the person or thing that receives the action. In this case, it's the ball that receives the kick, so the receiver is the ball. Okay, so now what's the major difference between the active and the passive voice? Well, if you look at the active voice sentence, you see that the sentence starts with the agent, and the receiver is all the way at the end or in the background of the sentence. So we can say that in an active voice sentence, the major focus is the agent, while in the passive voice sentence, the focus is the receiver. And you notice here that the agent has been pushed to the background or to the end of the sentence. Sometimes we can even leave out the agent if it's not important. Also notice here that there is the verb be. This was is just the verb be in the past tense. We put the verb be here to show that this is the receiver and not the agent. That's very important in the passive voice. Okay, so now we know that if we write or say a sentence in the passive voice, that is because we want to focus on the receiver and we don't want to focus on the agent. In what situation might we do that? Well, one situation is where the agent is less important. Now let me give you an example. There's this hotel near my home. It's a very popular hotel, but there was one problem, and that problem was the hotel looked very old. It was an old hotel. But recently, I learned that they have renovated the hotel. Renovate means to improve the look of a place. So they have repainted the building, they've added some new furniture, they've made some nice decorations, and now the hotel looks really good. So we can say that they have renovated the hotel. Now, as soon as you hear that sentence, you might realize that that's not the best way to say it because we're giving too much focus to they. We're saying they have renovated the hotel. We don't want to do that. We want to focus instead on the hotel and the renovation. So we write it in the passive as the hotel has been renovated. It's in the present perfect tense, so I'm writing has been. Now notice here, there is no mention of the agent. In our original sentence, we said the ball was kicked by Eddie. We mentioned the agent. But here, there's no agent. And that is the advantage in the passive voice. If you are not interested in the agent, you can leave out the agent. All right, so our final sentence is the hotel has been renovated. Now we could say the hotel has been renovated by them, but that would really not be necessary because we're not interested in that information. All right, the second situation where we use the passive is where the agent is unknown. So let's say that somebody stole my wallet last week. Somebody stole my wallet last week. Now we know that some thief or some pickpocket pinched my wallet, but we don't know who that person is. So we can say that the agent is unknown. That is, the person doing the action is unknown. So we can write that sentence as my wallet was stolen last week. This is in the passive, and once again we have left out the agent. The reason here is that that agent is unknown. So we're focusing entirely on the wallet because after all, that's what's important to me, my wallet, right? So my wallet was stolen last week. All right, the third situation where we prefer the passive is where the agent is obvious. Let's say that the police found the thief who stole my wallet, and the police arrested the thief yesterday. The police arrested the thief yesterday. I have rewritten that sentence in the passive as the thief was arrested yesterday. Now obviously this sentence focuses on the thief, but also when I tell you the thief was arrested yesterday, you know immediately that it was done by the police, because only the police can arrest people. So there's no need to mention the police here. That's why we're saying that the agent is obvious. That means the agent is clear, and anyone hearing the sentence can immediately guess who did the action. So we can leave out the agent and we can write the sentence in the passive voice when the agent is obvious. All right, the final situation where we often prefer to use the passive is when we want to develop a topic. This is when you have two or more sentences that talk about the same topic. Like in this example, Harry Potter is a fantasy novel. J.K. Rowling wrote it. It refers to Harry Potter. Now we are interested in the second sentence. In the second sentence, J.K. Rowling is the agent, wrote is the action, and it is the receiver, that is Harry Potter. But there's a problem with this second sentence. And the problem is that when you read the two sentences together, it sounds like you're changing the topic. In the first sentence, we're saying Harry Potter is a fantasy novel. We're focusing on Harry Potter. But when we come to the second sentence, suddenly we're saying J.K. Rowling. And J.K. Rowling wrote it. That causes, it can throw off your listener a little bit. So it would be better to write this sentence in the passive so that we can focus on Harry Potter. So let me rewrite this sentence. All right, and there it is. It was written by J.K. Rowling. Now read the two sentences together. Harry Potter is a fantasy novel. It was written by J.K. Rowling. Notice in this sentence, or in this case, we're flowing smoothly from the first sentence to the second sentence. We're keeping the topic the same. That is a very important use of the passive voice. All right, before we end this lesson, I want to tell you quickly where not to use the passive voice. Now, we saw these four situations where we prefer the passive. But in some cases, you can only use the active voice. You cannot use the passive. Remember that the agent-receiver relationship is very important for passive sentences. But some sentences have no receiver. How is that possible, you might think? Doesn't every sentence have a receiver? Well, not necessarily. When I say, I'm happy, there's no receiver in that sentence. Or if I say, the baby cried, again, there's no receiver. So for sentences like that, there is no passive voice. You can only use the active voice. Now, if a verb does not have a receiver, like cry, laugh, am, like I'm happy, etc., then we call that verb, we call it an intransitive verb. That's a verb that has no object or receiver. The passive voice is only possible for transitive verbs, that is, verbs that take an object, like kick, steal, arrest, write, etc. So that's very important to keep in mind. Also keep in mind that we use the passive voice more in writing and less in speech. So if we're talking, it's natural to use the active voice. So I might say, hey, guess what? They've renovated the hotel. They have renovated the hotel. That's an active voice sentence. Or, someone stole my wallet last week. That's also perfectly natural to say. Or, hey, you know what? The police arrested the thief yesterday. That is in the active voice, and in speech, it's very common to do that. So remember just that difference. All right, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Remember to subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in another lesson soon.